After the recent announcement of Russell T Davies returning to Doctor Who, both the man and the team who first brought back Who in 2005, it's made me reflect and investigate those early days of Doctor Who and the BBC. All of this, which was led by the poster boy, Christopher Eccleston, a respected TV and stage performer at the time, known for doing realistic commentary pieces such as Our Friends in the North. He decided to work on what was originally pitched as a family-friendly show, but what turned out to be a shit show of production, sexual misconduct, character assassination, but ended up leading to a multi-million TV phenomenon.
Do you want to come with me?
In the Doctor Who community, it's a common phrase to call someone my doctor. For a show that's over 50 years old, so many generations have experienced this show, and as such, their generation and their doctor is meaningful to them. Be it in the 60s when it was first on the air, or my mum in the 80s watching Tom Baker, or an 8-year-old me in 2005 watching as the show came back on air. And even after watching all the series from this point, and even with another 5 actors to play the role, my doctor will always be my first, and that is the beloved Christopher Eccleston. For me, Series 1 is the realest the show's ever been. It reflected society back on itself, just as science fiction has always done. But this time, it was my society, my world of the early 2000s in working class Britain, the symmetry of dark and dystopian sci-fi vibes of the 1980s film, with the grim reality of early 2000s council estates. Even the Doctor, our alien lead with 2 hearts, is wearing a torn leather jacket, a plain dark t-shirt, and dons a northern accent. It hits this sense of realism and relatability that the following series captured, but it never felt as perfect as this. But this was my first, and as such, I just can't help but love it, especially the cheesy flaws of its time. Doctor Who has always had this issue of production, how the BBC is run with limited budget, especially for new shows, it's hard. But for a genre like sci-fi in the early 2000s on TV, the Beeb gave very little care to Russell's camp reboot of this old TV show.
It was really tough and really difficult, and we were never filming everything. In fact, many of the days we were barely getting halfway down the call sheets, and so what that means is the whole production falls into chaos then, because you're constantly replanning.
Series 1 had this crazy ambition, which ultimately led it to great success, but it came at the cost of a terrible work culture, where staff were doing crazy hours during shoots. More and more directors were brought on over time to shoot simultaneously, and it all sounded like it wouldn't work out, ending in Russell frantically working on rewrites when he found out Christopher Eccleston, who had only signed on for 1 series, wouldn't be coming back. Chris has given many interviews and reasons why he left. At the time, the reasons were given that he didn't want to be typecast as the Doctor, which seemed valid, and that he left the role because he was exhausted. Both of which didn't seem like enough, and as you'll see later on, are just not fully true. Over the next decade and a half, it was pretty quiet. Eccleston would always dodge questions in interviews, but eventually came out with his story. Firstly, in 2019 in a Radio Times interview, he said his relationship with his 3 immediate superiors, the showrunner, the producer, and the co-producer, broke down during the first block of filming and then never recovered. These 3 being Russell himself, Julie Gardner, and Phil Collinson. All 3 of these have gone on to great success though. Russell and Phil recently worked on It's a Sin together as an exec and producer, and Julie who worked on It's Dark Materials, both to wide success. To me, it seems like their ambition was greater than reality with scheduling and production in this first series, but more so it seemed that they weren't running a tight ship at all, especially after hearing the horrors that came out at the start of 2021 regarding Noel Clarke and John Barrowman.
And Barrowman's there taking his dick out every 5 seconds. Like, you know, every 5 seconds, just hitting it on everything like that. You can't help but laugh. Like Chris will be like, serious, I'm concentrating on my acting.
This clip from an old convention that recently resurfaced, Noel is clearly saying how John Barrowman exposed himself on set, especially by the awkwardness of his female co-stars. The line about Chris is also interesting in that he was trying to seriously act, while people such as Noel and Barrowman clearly had other intentions in mind.
They allege Clarke is a serial abuser of women, using his power in the industry to prey on and harass female colleagues.
and as stated in April this year, 20 different women came out that Noel Clarke sexually harassed them. It's still an ongoing case, and it's a very likely event to have happened with so many women speaking out over this. As for John Barrowman, his acts are documented in a wrap-up video about Russell's time in the show, but how his actions affected others haven't been heard as much of. At a convention from 2014, his co-lead of Doctor Who spin-off, Torchwood's Eve Miles, talked about his antics in jest, and another interview from 2008, Freema, who played Martha, said only the new people such as herself were freaked out. Either way though, it's clear that this behaviour plus the chaos of production must have contributed for Chris wanting to leave. Trying to seriously act in an environment like this must have taken its toll.
I could bring down your government with a single word.
You're the most remarkable man I've ever met. But I don't think you're quite capable of that.
No, you're right. Not a single word. Just 6.
I don't think so.
6 words.
Stop it!
6. Don't you think she looks tired?
The final piece, which I alluded to earlier, was the damage the BBC did to Eccleston after leaving the role. He was only signed for a single year because it was uncertain whether the show would even continue beyond a single series. In retrospect though, it was a huge success as soon as it began airing. While the show was still airing, it was revealed Eccleston was leaving the role to the excitement of the press, but Chris didn't even know this announcement was happening. However, I'll let him explain the rest.
Without saying anything to me, they announced that I was leaving. They didn't tell me they were going to do that. I was walking down the street and suddenly I got quite a lot of aggression. And more importantly, they should have said it. They created a quote and they attributed it to me, which said I was tired. Now the thing is about that, I found it too tiring. I didn't find it too tiring. I found it too tiring working with Russell and Phil and Julia. I didn't find it physically too tiring. When they said that, any other producer reading that would go, oh, we're not going to employ Chris Eccleston because he gets tired. So it was a lie.
What is crazy to me is this show even refers to this damage in the first episode without Chris being there, the Christmas invasion. Not only this, but the BBC blacklisted Eccleston, which fortunately didn't damage his career too much. He later appeared in American shows such as Heroes and The Leftovers, Marvel's Thor films, as well as multiple BBC productions. However, it has left him outside the world of Doctor Who for a long time. He recently returned to the universe of Doctor Who in the form of Big Finish audio dramas, but it's clear from this interview that he's not coming back to Doctor Who on TV. So far, these are all the reasons as to why Christopher Eccleston left Doctor Who and why he won't be coming back. And despite the disaster behind the scenes, he left an impression that fans won't forget.
I don't know, you see, I like to think of it, I think it was perfect, because I think for the brand new audience that we obviously had to get, we cast a brilliant actor who came in and just from the minute I think he arrived on screen just owned the part in a way that you could have only really wished for, you know, and he owned the part. And then and you know, you saw his entire life and you saw him die all in the space of 1 year, and then you saw, once that would happen, how the show could then move on. So if you were 8 years old, it was perfect and brilliant and exciting. And actually, what a way to end your first series, with a complete change of character and a brand new person saying, here we go, I'm someone new now. And actually there's something perfect about those 13, I think, and that is Doctor's life.
Hey, this video is sourced from many different video interviews, news articles, and Russell T Davies' book, Doctor Who The Writer's Tale, which if you're a fan of, I'd highly recommend giving a read. If you did enjoy this video, give it a like and subscribe for more stories soon. See ya.
Oh shit!